No, I said you are doing the lesson on comparing the
Now
pair
let's
of fractions.
practice. Let's now try your now let's
Have you ever done that before? Have you ever done it before? You did compare fractions before? Yes or no? Okay then. So that should give obvious that I want you to do the entire lesson. Well, I don't know if you can find someone. Go ahead.
Now let's practice with the personal. Let's compare the let's work. How can you let's work through this problem. How can you
Hey there! Good to see you. My friend Bartley the Frog is about to join us too. I wonder what he's up to.
let's work through this problem involving fractions.
Hey there! Good to see you. My friend Bartley the Frog is about to join us too. I wonder what he's up to. Oh, it looks like Farley's interested in those buckets. Let's see what Farley is so curious about. Those buckets are full of rocks. One bucket is 3/5 full, and the other bucket is 3/8 full. How can you compare these two fractions? Hang on. I think I may know a way to compare fractions that have either the same numerator or the same denominator. Come with me to find out more.
Let's work through this problem involving fractions. Let's unlock this problem. You can use equivalent fractions with the same denominator to compare values. First, let's look at the fractions you're being asked to compare. 5/12 and 1/3. 5/12 has a denominator of 12. The denominator in 1/3 is 3. Since 12 is a multiple of both 3 and 12, you can use 12 as the denominator for both fractions. How can you represent 1/3 as a fraction with a denominator of 12? Multiply both its numerator and its denominator by 4. That gives you 4/12. The model for 4/12 and the model for 5/12 have parts that are the same size, so you can compare the number of parts. The model for 5/12 has more shaded parts than the model for 4/12. Let's compare the fractions. 5/12 is greater than 4/12. And you know that 4/12 is equal to 1/3, so that means 5/12 is also greater than 1/3. So there were more booths with face painting than booths with sand art. There's another way to use equivalent fractions to solve this problem. Let's compare the two fractions again. When two fractions have the same numerator, they have the same number of parts. You can compare the size of the parts to compare the fractions. 5/12 has a numerator of 5, and 1/3 has a numerator of 1. Let's write 1/3 as an equivalent fraction using a common numerator. Since 5 is a multiple of both 1 and 5, we can use 5 as the numerator for both fractions. Now, let's multiply the numerator and denominator of 1/3 by 5. That gives you 5/15. The model for 5/15 has 5 parts shaded, and the model for 5/12 has 5 parts shaded. Let's compare the size of the parts in each model. The model for 5/12 has larger parts than the model for 5/15. Which fraction is greater? Since the model for 5/12 has bigger parts than the model for 5/15, 5/12 is greater. So 5/12 is greater than 5/15. You know that 5/15 is equal to 1/3. That means 5/12 is also greater than 1/3. So there were more booths with face painting than booths with sand art. Let's compare the fractions 6/10 and 2/3. To compare these fractions, you can write equivalent fractions that use the same numerator. 6/10 has a numerator of... Now, let's practice. Now, try your homework on your own. Now, let's practice with the personal math. Now, try your homework on...
Close that door, please. What is it?
Here's some responses.
Yes.
Can you turn off the AC, please?
What is it? I didn't say anything. Give me a second. Do you have any quizzes for me this week?
No,
No,
no.
ma'am. Not sure?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am. Okay.
Can I check on the fees for the podcast?
No,
No.
no.
She can do it herself.
I'm timing you. You have a minute to do that. Go.
To wash his hands. Oh, so cold.
Yeah. Okay, I need you to pause what you're doing and all eyes on the board. We are now going to get into the topic of comparing fractions.